First, with the Flint water crisis tonight, 2 state officials and 1 city worker face multiple felony charges in the lead contamination of Flint's drinking water. The decision to file charges came after an investigation led by Michigan Attorney General Bill Schuette.
I've made it abundantly clear that our system of justice applies to everybody. It's not rigged. No one is above the law, not on my watch. Our investigation, when it is completed, will be thorough. It'll be complete. It'll be exhaustive. We will enforce the law. This Flint crisis team that has been assembled, we will enforce the law. We will protect the victims, the families and citizens of Flint, and we will hold each and every person who breaks the law will be held accountable.
And Schuette says he guarantees more people will be charged in this crisis. Meanwhile, Governor Rick Snyder announced he will drink filtered water from Flint for the next month. And that's where we begin with our MiWeek contributors tonight. Nolan Finley of the Detroit News, Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Gentlemen, you know, we've been saying for months that it was mistakes at every level in the state, but now those mistakes are criminal. Nolan, what did you make of the charges and of the people charged in this case?
Well, I mean, these are very low level. I would think that this was sort of smoking out others. I think that was probably the purpose of yesterday, because Schuette and Andy Arena, Todd Flood kept mentioning over and over again that you know, we hope others will come forward now and tell what they know. And you know, I think this other people in the government, they're hoping they see these charges and the possibility of people facing prison, and they'll say, wow, you know, I'm not going to wait for them to get me. I'll raise my hand. I think that was the purpose of going out with these sort of small-time early indictments and then saying there's a lot more to come.
What did you make of the charges, Stephen, when you heard?
Yeah, I think Nolan's right. You know, this is about leveraging the threat of criminal prosecution or jail in order to get more people to come forward and say what they did or cooperate with the investigation. I mean, I also think it has an unfortunate effect of sort of distracting from the sort of bigger government responsibility, which won't reach the level of criminality, I don't think. And I don't think you'll see charges, for instance, against the governor's sort of inner circle or the governor himself. But these are the people who were ultimately responsible for what happened, and they are certainly responsible for fixing it going forward. The criminal charges have the effect a little bit of saying, reinforcing the governor's sort of effort to put the blame on someone else. Well, it was not me, it's these bureaucrats who don't know how to do their jobs. And I think that's sort of an unfortunate wrinkle to this.
And hang on. A lot of reporters were asking, okay, so is the governor also a target of this investigation? And Bill Schuette says, you know, we're not limiting anywhere. Yeah. And the governor says that he's been cooperating fully.
I'm not sure it won't reach. I don't know if it'll reach the governor, but I'm not sure it won't reach his staff and his inner circle. And I think if you just look at this as a pure political calculation, and Bill Schuette is running for governor, I mean, if you want to separate yourself from this mess, and you know, which is on the Republicans right now. You know, there's no better way to do it than for a Republican Attorney General to indict other Republicans.
Wait, so do you think these charges are legitimate? You say that just Bill Schuette is using this to pad his political resume?
I don't think that at all, but I think that they're not. Those aren't mutually exclusive outcomes.
So all right. So how intertwined is this? Do you think,
well, I think politically it is. I think it'll be a real problem for Republicans, and it should be. But I think, you know, the criminal statutes we're looking at here that are on the table are all pretty narrow, especially the ones that have to do with environmental regulations. The criminal side of that law is very, well, it's just narrow. And so it's very difficult to come up with actions that people took that meet the standard of criminal prosecution, far more civil liabilities generally. Now, if somebody said something that wasn't true, in the course of an investigation, now that opens up a different avenue for the prosecutors, perjury or obstruction, those kind of charges. But I think it will be very difficult to move that up the chain much further than where we're seeing. It's just the law doesn't really give you that kind of action.
See, I'm not sure, because I think the course Schuette is taking here is not just that you had to act with criminal intent. I mean, he's making the contention that if you have a responsibility and you cut corners on your job, if you don't do your job well, and it results in a danger to public safety, that you are criminally liable. I think that's going to be an interesting case
will
to
be
prosecute.
interesting, yeah.
Well,
and
and
to see how a jury
'cause the statute
reacts.
And I
doesn't
think it's
really-
also an interesting ripple effect, too, about how it affects the rest of the 50,000 civil servants that we have in the state of Michigan. If you work for the state and you're seeing this, what does this tell you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, first of all, most people who work for the state and carry out the state's business are entitled to a measure of what they call qualified immunity. In other words, that the things you're doing are on behalf of government; they aren't personal, and so your personal liability is limited. And so, I think he may be trying to push the bounds of that and say, listen, you know, in this case, it's somewhat different. I think those would be really tough cases to make. But of course, you know, if you're using that to try to get other people to confess to other things, you know, there's no problem with it. It will be interesting to see. I don't think, and most lawyers who are familiar with the environmental statutes in the state have said it will be very tough to prove
But there are a lot of
criminal
paths.
wrongdoing.
There are a lot of paths out of this thing. I mean, we still, I think, a deep dive into how this Karagandhi Water Authority came to be and who pushed that and why could produce fertile ground.
Yeah,
for
no
this.
question.
And we still have federal investigation as well. You have the U.S. Attorney's Office that is also looking into this too. Let's talk a little bit about the governor coming out this week ahead of the criminal announcements and saying, "Well, I'm going to drink filtered water from Flint for the next 30 days." We've talked a lot about
I
his.
heard Nolan's doing the same thing.
All right, Nolan, are you doing the same thing?
I am standing in solidarity with the people of Kentucky and drinking only bourbon for the next.
Well, now that would be something I'd like to see for the next 30 days. But let's talk a little bit, because we have talked an awful lot about how the governor has reacted to this situation. And Stephen, that you have been very pointed in saying he hasn't reacted in the right way. It's been a PR disaster for him, that he needs to be more in Flint and talking with people personally, one-on-one. What does this do for you in terms of showing effort that he's in solidarity with the people of Flint?
Well, I mean, it seems a little stilted, right? I mean, the pictures of him doing this have not given you the sense that he is engaging all that much with the people of Flint, so much as he's staging, you know, a PR event again, to try to seem as though he's really focused on that part of it.
Yeah, but he can't win at this point, don't you think?
I mean, that was going to be my next point.
Oh, it was? There you go.
Know, it's really hard to think of what he could do at this point that would look substantively different, other than going and talking, you know, en masse with the people of Flint. You know, hold a town hall, an actual town hall, and invite people to come out and tell you what they think. I don't think he's going to do that. It's just not.
And I don't think that helps either. I think everything at this point looks gimmickry, and you know, the time for those sort of gestures was early. Now, you know, people have formed their opinion. The best thing he can do is just fix the problem. And you know, one of the reasons he's drinking the Flint water for a month is to encourage people to use this water, because unless you flush that system, it may be a better way to a better approach might be to say to everyone, look, the meters are off for the next week, leave your taps open and get this done all at once.
You know, it's funny that you should say that, because I think there was a line in one of your papers saying, and the state has promised to pay the bills for, you know, the excessive use of the water flushing the system. And I'm saying, you see that word promise, and if I live in Flint, I'm like, meh.
Just shut the meters off and turn on all your taps. I don't know how many days it would take, but if the idea is you need to move water, treated water, through that system in order to coat the pipes, then let's just do that. Yeah.
All right, and a program note for you. You can watch the World Channel and Detroit Public TV's joint production looking at the Flint water crisis called Beyond the Tap. It's especially timely given this week's charges. You can see it Monday, April 25th at 7:30 p.m. Mark your calendars. All right, turning now